Hi, my name is Patty McGarrahan, and I'd like to welcome you to the show, The Mindz Eye. And today I have a guest with me. Her name is Susan Clements, and she has been an herbalist around Rhode Island for a very long time, and she's helped a lot of people with things. So we're very excited to have her here today. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Patty.
How you doing? You've come and taught a class at my place before.
Yes.
And you've been around town. Why don't you talk about your start with herbalism?
Oh my gosh, it really goes back, probably to around 1980. There was a progression of a connection with plants and an interest in healing, especially as it pertained to women's health. And in 1987, the two paths merged. And I had actually taken a program at the Omega Institute.
Oh, I've been there a few times for programs. It's a great place to go.
It is. It's a wonderful place and great energy. And so the first week that I took there was based around plants, particularly wild plants, which has always been my thing, for medicinal purposes and uses. And I have to tell you, too, that same week Starhawk was there. And I had a long interest also through the 80s of spiritual connection, in the other realm and feminine spirituality. And anyway, that week at the Omega Institute, both of those came together, studying the plants and also doing some things on the side with Starhawk. And it was a pivotal point in my life that really changed things.
Could you explain to everybody I know who Starhawk is, but could you explain?
Yes, Starhawk is a well-known Wiccan feminine spirituality priestess from the San Francisco area in California, and she wrote back in the 80s a book called Spiral Dance. And
it's a great book.
It's a great book, yeah. And so the whole thing really changed my life and the trajectory of it. It was from that point then, within this next year, that I, between 87 and 88, that I met Catherine Wheeler, who was the former owner of the Grateful Heart in Wickford.
Loved her.
And she offered for me to come and rent a room, and the original Herb Wife business was created. And
I got goosebumps because that was one of my favorite places to stop in.
Yeah.
You didn't even know me back then because I wasn't into it that much.
Right,
but I used to land in there.
Yeah, and that was a great metaphysical center for a long time. And so, I started the business in 1988, and I had mentors walk through the door who really held my hand through the 90s. It was really an amazing experience and a great time in my life.
Excellent.
So I've been doing this for a long time and teaching.
And teaching it, yes. And one of the best teachers around. I got to
Thank
tell you, a lot of people, it wasn't necessarily something I was drawn to, but two people that were big parts of my place, Lauren and Jeremy, were both students of yours.
Yes.
And they brought back some of the information from you, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Lauren did a class at my house called Kitchen Witchin', and explained like oregano and what it had for healing capacities and everything. But my house was built on a farmland, so I had crazy things still coming up in the lawn. And she said that there was some kind of lettuce that they only had like in the fancy restaurants and stuff. And we laughed because before I got my own place, we went out with Lauren, and following some of your knowledge, went out with Lauren, and I had 11 people on my front lawn, and it was one of those nice days, and all the neighbors were out, and she said something about, and this, and 8 people bent over, picked it, and ate it on the front lawn. So I had to call my husband and say, you might not want to come home till about 1:30 in the morning. The whole neighborhood was, and they're very good neighbors. They're very good neighbors. But even the least nosy human being in the world was wondering why I had all these people eating my grass.
Yeah, that happens. That happens. It does attract attention.
Absolutely,
For sure. But it's all about the weeds. And for me, with herbalism, it's really been about that. It's been really looking at what we have right underneath our feet. I live in North Kingstown. I have only about a half acre with my home, so I don't have a lot of property. But I live in my house is 1880, so it was an old farmland area.
I've seen pictures that you put on Facebook, and it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And so, it's all about, I've been looking at just the weeds in my backyard for years and, taking an inventory and watching things move around and collecting a lot of things to make my own medicine and teas and, things that I put away and things that I use for my skincare line. So, it's all about the weeds.
It's all about the weeds.
But you know what's really wonderful about that? When you watch the wild plants like this, it connects you on a much deeper level to the whole wheel of the year and how things move and change, and how in each season we are absolutely given everything that we need for our wellness. So, it's like, can I give you a tour through the year?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
So starting in the spring, we have the plants that come through that are all about cleansing and really helping our bodies to transition from that winter time into the next part of the year, which would be spring. And then as we move through spring, the plants change a little bit. So that by the time we get to like now, we're starting to see those plants coming in, like the roses and St. John's wort and yarrow, that are going to be good for almost like summer first aid kinds of things, So like the yarrow is a really good styptic that helps to stop bleeding. So I always dry yarrow and put it in my summer first aid kit. St. John's wort, of course, is going to give us this beautiful red oil that's a great wound healer and excellent for helping, things on the skin. And plantain, which is good for the bug bites and the bee stings, And then as we get further along now, and like right around now, the mulberry tree is starting to bloom. So we're moving into berry season. So we'll have the wild mulberries, we'll have blueberries, we'll have wild black raspberries, elderberries. And all of these are good and high in antioxidants, which help to protect us against the sun. Late summer, we come into those plants like goldenrod and the other berries, the sumac berries and the wild grapes, all things, again, that are rich in antioxidants, but also good for some of those things for us to put away for winter.
Okay.
Okay? And then we get to the roots.
Yep.
Late in the late fall, and again, the roots are going to help to keep us grounded as we go into the winter. So it's really wonderful the way that all of these plants present and give us what we need throughout the entire year.
And I don't know, this is so many years back because my daughter, she wouldn't like it if I told her it was going to be like 24 years ago. My daughter was a teenager and she ran track, but she doesn't like to compete. So eventually she's 5'9" with like 5 foot legs, so they loved her, you know what I mean? But what happened is she didn't like to compete, and it made her so nervous that they said she had to compete instead of just running with them. When she gave up the running, it created something which her body doesn't hold on to the hormones. And I went to Sue's office. I literally went to her office and her shop, and you gave me advice, and I didn't realize that I had met you, and it didn't even dawn on me when you came to the shop, but it did tonight, I remembered. And you helped me. You gave me this stuff that I mixed in to a drink that I gave her, and I think you had me give her something like something that was medicinal, but a regular thing to just help her. And then you had me give her something, and I mixed it up, and it was so funny because she went to go to work. She was working at McDonald's, like at 16 years old, and her manager called me up and said, "Bring me her drink. She needs it now," And I needed to stall 3 months before I could get her into the appropriate medical to find it for her. And they were so impressed with what you did too. The girl was like half and half, with it. She was medical, but also metaphysical. And it was a shame I didn't tell you at the time because I always thanked you because wow, she got crazy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she got crazy.
That's
With
great.
that, it just, something with the hormones and the stopping the running just created havoc within her body.
Right. What happens sometimes when when kids are exercising so much that the body fat reduces too, and that really affects the hormones. So with some young women, their menstrual cycles will actually even stop.
Yep. She had it, they said that she wasn't holding 5 different hormones that she needed to hold.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was, but you were an intricate part of saving us for, especially until we could get her into the doctor.
That's great.
It was so, and I had a guidance counselor at first that said she was an herbalist. I knew what she told me didn't sound right. And she's telling me that I should put her on Valium root. And you said, no. Not at her age, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I do thank you for that as well.
Oh, good.
So that was just, I just remembered that now. It was, yeah, so I used to pop into your shop all the time, every time I went over there, so.
Yeah, I miss having that space and the contact with people all the
The
time.
interaction, yes. But, yeah, we miss having such easy contact with you, for sure. So in the meantime, tell me some of your skin line stuff and some of the stuff that you're doing. You just mentioned.
Yes, well, I'm also a holistic esthetician and reflexologist, so, you know, I move around with a few different things, and so and I've been doing the holistic aesthetics since 2000.
Okay.
And so I've been in the treatment room now 22 years, and along the way I decided to start making some of my own products. So pretty much that's what I use on clients. You know, when they come in, I use what I've created and made. Mm-hmm. So I've formulated a whole line of skincare, and
you were starting that when you came to my shop. You had just started doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, so I've been doing that now for about 10 or 12 years, where I've had that line, and I just keep adding you know, other things to it, you know, and being inspired to like in the fall I did a pumpkin line, and then after that I did a pomegranate line when I got to winter time, and I'm going to do rose hips in the fall.
Oh, nice.
They'll have an impact.
How can people find you so that they can find what?
I have a website. After the Herb Wife, I morphed into Earth and Ocean Herbals. So
Okay.
I have a website that people can go on and they can see everything that I'm doing with the classes that I still offer, and the services that I have, and also the product line that I put together.
Excellent, excellent. So it's Earth and Obel?
Earth and Ocean Herbals.
Herbals.
Yeah. You were close.
I was close, yeah. I just kind of strung it together a little different. So so that way they can find some of your items and what you offer.
Right, and I'm also moving out now a little bit. I'm really bringing out now and bringing more to the world. I have a strong connection with the elements.
Okay.
And how they connect to the plants. And I'm really wanting to do more with the vibrational aspect of the plants. So I've started creating another line that's based around the 5 elements.
Excellent.
So that can be used more, I think, for spiritual purposes. So I have a line of 5 oils now that I've formulated, and that's going to, and I'm creating on paper now an extension of those oils that will go into baths, and using the elements to balance out where things need to be balanced. So if somebody needs grounding, they can plug into the earth. If they need to be lifted up, they can plug into the air. If they need to connect with spirit, they can do.
Oh, beautiful.
Love it.
I loved my grandson when he was about 5, 6 years old. There was a cartoon, and I can't remember what it was, but I was so excited about it, because in the path of them being lost, going into the temples of Egypt, trying to deliver like a pizza, it was a kid's story, but in there they hit the 5 elements, and the 5th element was the one that they were supposed to deliver the pizza to. But it explained to these 5 to 8-year-olds the importance of the 5 elements, and I said, because I believe that they're very important, that vibration.
Yes, absolutely, and the plants all connect to those. So now, even with my students, I'm working with them to start seeing the plants in a different way so that they can begin to connect that there's more than just the physical working with these plants for medicinal purposes or for skin care, whatever, that the plants have this whole other energy. So if you're wanting to, even with the medicinal perspective, you can bring in that elemental piece to up the ante, so to speak, when working from that physical place.
Terrific.
I love it.
And tell some of the, if you can go into just a couple of specific examples of like what type of herbs and plants help what type of things, like just a general. I know it's hard for you to do because you're so into it in detail.
There's so many. Well, if we work just from a perspective of looking at some of the wild plants that are out now.
Okay.
How's that?
That would work good.
So right now I'm very deep into roses.
Okay.
Okay, the wild Rosa rugosa that is covering our northeastern seashore. And it's naturalized here beautifully. It's great for holding down the soil and preventing erosion and all that sort of thing. But it has this magical, unbelievably wide use of things that it can, I mean, it has so many different ways that it can go, from being medicinal to skincare to edible into libations, adult beverage types of things.
Oh, wow.
So roses themselves are really connected to the nervous system, so they're very connected to the heart and the heart chakra. They can be wonderful for relaxing, for anxiety, for helping to, and for me, they're a water element. So when the flow needs to happen, if somebody is stuck or if somebody has a lot of heartache and they're really wanting to kind of move through that and to lift them up a little bit, then the roses are a beautiful opportunity to make that happen.
I never knew any of this. I'm intrigued.
So, and we have so many of them lining our seacoast. So, in fact, I was out this afternoon with the puppy doggy. He and I were collecting together in our little bag. So, with this that I collected today, I'll take them home and I'll make a syrup out of these.
Oh, and how do you do that?
So what's the pan? What's this? Maybe a 2-quart pan?
Yep, that looks like a 2-quart.
So I'll take a handful of the rose petals and put them in the 2 handfuls of rose petals. One of the things I learned years ago when I was working with traditional healers in Central America is that they actually measured a lot of things, from here to here. But anyway, I like to use handfuls sometimes, and my handfuls are pretty good,
Yep.
So I'll use 2 handfuls, and I use filtered water.
Okay.
From my filter, and so I'll bring those 2 handfuls of rose petals, and I might put a little cinnamon or some cardamom seeds in the pan, and just a little bit, and bring it up to a simmer and let the color wash right out of the rose petals, so they actually become white.
Oh, wow.
All the color goes right into the filtered water. So then I'll strain the rose petals out and add 2 more handfuls. So I'll do like a double
batch of them.
right.
Yeah.
And then, but no more water. Same water, just more rose petals, and do the same thing all over again. But the next time when they're strained out, then that'll be that. And I'll add honey to it to kind of thicken it up a little bit and to preserve it, because the honey is an excellent natural preservative.
Natural preservative, right.
And I might add a little bit of brandy in it to hold it. And then I'll just put it in a mason jar and refrigerate it. And it lasts for 2 or 3 months in the fridge.
And how would you use it?
I use it as, well, first of all, it's going to have some vitamin C in it. And so it's nutritive.
Okay.
All right. But then I'll also add just a little bit in the bottom of a glass and maybe put some mineral water in with it.
Okay.
and drink it. It's very refreshing. It's cooling, very cooling on a hot summer day.
Okay.
And and I'm getting the benefit, the medicinal benefit of it, mostly nutritive in this case. Syrups are excellent for nutritive benefit.
Okay.
So, so I'll take it that way.
And do you find that it also works on some of the things, other things that you were talking about, like the element?
Yes, and what it will do is help to kind of calm things down a little bit. It's a very calming type of syrup to use.
Okay.
So yes, it's good in that regard.
So would that be a good thing to do, like before you went to bed?
Yes, you could. Although the honey is, you know, it's a sugar type,
so
so
that
it may actually, you know, lift you up a little bit. But it's not like doing like a white sugar or a natural sugar or something like that. It's a little bit different. But it's lovely and it's refreshing, and there's something just very soothing about using it.
Excellent. Now, so let's do another one, because this is intriguing me.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's intrigued by this.
So let's do St. John's wort, because we're coming up on the summer solstice.
Okay.
And that's how we know that when the summer solstice comes around, that's always connected to the fire element and St. John's wort.
Okay.
Okay. So St. John's wort is in bloom now, and I found it the other day. When you take and pinch some of the unopened buds of the St. John's wort plant,
Okay.
it exudes a purplish red fluid.
Okay.
Okay. It's called St. John's wort is the Old English word for herb. Okay. So it's St. John's herb.
I wondered why they had that name for that. Okay.
That's why.
Oh, okay.
And St. John's Day is the 24th of June, right after the solstice. And he was unfortunately beheaded, so he spilled blood. And it's the same time that St. John's wort is in bloom, so that was kind of the connection.
Okay.
That purplish red fluid that comes out, it actually resembles, like if you went and had blood drawn, it's very similar in color. So that purplish red fluid is called hypericin.
Okay.
And the Latin name for St. John's wort is Hypericum perforatum. So the hypericin that's in this plant is the medicinal part of the St. John's wort. And St. John's wort itself is a fire element, but it's connected to the nervous system with what it does, but it has a different energy from the rose, which is also connected to the nervous system.
Okay.
Okay, so rose, where it's a water, it's going to be calming and soothing. With St. John's wort, it's a fire plant, but at the same time, it can help to put out a fire, which is interesting.
Oh, wow.
So with St. John's wort, it's one of my go-tos. If someone comes to me and they tell me that they have shingles, for body pain, it's excellent for helping to squelch that body pain.
Okay. Me too, I get distracted.
I know. It's also an antiviral.
Okay.
So if someone has going back to the shingles, it's very good for pain, but it also is good for the viral part of taking of working with the shingles, because it's a virus.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
I wish I knew about this when I had him. I got shingles.
yeah, I mean, it's also important to know that, and I'm going to put the caveat on here, that if people have medical issues, that they should always check with their physician.
And I always promote that as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important piece. But St. John's wort is a big player in that arena. It's also a big player for people who have mild to moderate depression. And that was one of the things that came around, you know, when people started really looking at St. John's wort. They were looking at it from that perspective, but they weren't really looking at it in terms of its connection to the shingles. They weren't really connecting to it in terms of being a very good wound healer. So topically, when we use it, it's good for pain. I like it in different types of, I'll make an oil out of it and maybe combine it with other herbs to use for like a first aid salve or something like that.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So state again your website.
Earth, Ocean, Herbals.
Herbals, yeah, Earth, Ocean, Herbals, to find out what you're doing. Just tell me a little bit about a few of the classes that you teach.
These days, pretty much I'm focusing on working with wild plants. So tomorrow night, for instance, I'm doing a program at the beach, right at beachside, where I'm just going to be talking about Rosa rugosa and all the things that people can do with that, and bring samples to show people and things for them to try, and then they'll go off and do a collection that they can take home and make their own goodies with. Yeah.
Fabulous. Yeah.
And it's always a wonderful evening next to the beach this time of the year. So we'll do that, and then you know, I'm into right now what I call the foraging pod. And the foraging pod is, we started in May, and we've had 4 meetings so far, where we're following the seasons into October. We're following the months into October, going out, identifying, collecting. They're making things, they're doing some research, bringing back and talking about it. So it's more hands-on out in the field program.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and then I also do an apothecary pod, and then I'll do a...
Explain that, because some of the viewers are not going to understand
Okay, so
that.
apothecary, if the students are going to go out into the field and start making things, it's important for them to know the terminology, how to make things, how to make tinctures, how to do teas, how to make all kinds of external applications, how to do syrups, elixirs, all this kind of stuff. So that's two long afternoons of just all hands-on program.
Okay, because definitely they need to learn the terminology. And
Right. What I found as time went on after I had done the apprenticeship for so many years, that people, lives changed. People didn't have a full weekend to devote to things anymore, or even in some cases full days. So I basically took the whole program apart and started.
I do that with a lot of my classes that I teach. I have to, I break them up, because when I went to take them, if I had the money, I didn't have the time. If I had the time, I didn't have the money. So when I was younger taking the classes, I even got my Reiki master to split Reiki 3 from Reiki master, because I couldn't do the 3 days. I had teenagers to chase around, you know, so.
Sure.
And that's excellent that you do that for people, and I do it at my shop all the time.
Yeah, and it's worked out very well.
Yes.
It's really been and I've been doing this probably for 4 or 5 years now, you know, where I just pulled the whole thing apart. But the foraging, people are really into wanting to know the wild plants and what to do with them, and so that's been really big.
Excellent, excellent. I thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure.
And I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot too.
Good.
And I've touched base into it, but I just haven't really. I would go up to the herb wife and ask you guys that knew what you were doing to it.
Right.
And I also went to one of Mystic. Sometimes I went to when they had 100 years ago when they had the ladies there. They don't have that there anymore. But
in Mystic Village.
Mystic Village, yeah. They
she
used
was
to have
one of my students too.
She was one of your students too.
Yeah.
Yes. If I couldn't catch you, sometimes I could catch her.
Yep.
But
Bonnie.
I used that a lot when I didn't know what to do with the kids. I was just like, what is happening? Because I've always been a firm believer that medical and holistic needs to combine.
Yes.
We had herbal and we had the holistic, and nobody, the medical came in and we got gifted with that. And instead of combining them, we threw out the herbal. Now the herbal's coming back, and sometimes they're trying to throw out the medical, and we just need that combination.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes,
And
I agree. We need both.
And I was always very fortunate that I found doctors that were very open to my ideas that it needed to be combined. And I was very fortunate to have that, because with my daughters, I needed it. I had 3 girls. So
Yes.
Yes, definitely needed it. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent.